Some months ago, I supported a Kickstarter campaign for a sampler and tape emulator called Chompi. This thing right here. And the campaign video made the device look absolutely magical. And now it's finally here. This is the Chompi sampler, and this is a peculiar device. Kind of looks like a mix between a MIDI keyboard, a computer keyboard, and some sort of briefcase. But it definitely has a charming appearance. And it also has most of the inputs and outputs you would expect from modern music devices. It has an internal microphone, a 3.5mm input, and two 3.5mm outputs, one for headphones and one for an external speaker. It's got MIDI in and out, and it has USB-C for charging in MIDI. And that's about it for ins and outs. So what is this thing? And just as importantly, what is it not? And what will it be in the future? Well, as mentioned in the beginning of this video, this is a sampler and tape emulator, and then also an effect processor, meaning that you can sample sounds either as melodic samples or as rhythmic one-shot samples, and then record them to a tape, and then apply effects to the sounds. So the workflow is emulating the time-stretching abilities of physical tape. Well, let me just show you. Already comes preloaded with a lot of sounds and presets, so let's listen to some of them. Now, the big selling point for the Kickstarter campaign was this magic wand effect, which is a combined reverb and delay, and it kind of makes everything sound nice, at least up to a certain point. Since this is a sampler, I should probably sample something. So I'm going to connect my iPad and sample sounds from a couple of instrument apps. Firstly, I'm going to sample this beautiful app called Speldåsa, which is a music box type of instrument. And tweak it a little bit. And it sounds actually really nice with the magic wand effect. And then let's try to loop something. Now, looping on Chompi is actually pretty hard, because at the moment there is no internal clock or metronome or anything like that. So it's tricky getting a perfect loop. But let's give it a shot. Next, I'll sample the Model D app by Moog. So I'll sample this bass sound and try to apply it to the loop I already have. Now, one thing I miss is an undo button, because whenever you mess up, you have to delete the entire loop you've been recording. And I've just been using the sample buffer, so I need to sample the music box sound again. And I'm going to try and actually save the sounds this time. So I need to pull up the quick start guide in order to figure out how to save the sounds as presets. Okay, now that that's done, let's try again. Now that I have a half-decent loop, I'm gonna try and resample it so that I can actually have something to come back to if I mess up the overdub. So what is this device not? Well, it's not really a groove box. It's too limited for that. You only got one loop at a time, there is no undo button, no sequencers, no internal clock, and very few arrangement options. Basically, you just have your initial loop, and then you need to resample if you want to do any additional arranging, which is possible, but it's pretty tricky. It's also not an effects pedal. You have to actually sample something to the device before you can apply any effects. So you can't, at least not for the time being, connect an external sound source and just apply effects to it. And the effects are also pretty limited, and you can't control the reverb and the delay separately, so the reverb becomes pretty overwhelming and washy at times. But I'm sure this will be addressed in the firmware updates. So how will I, and I believe most people, use this thing? Well, this is, as it is right now, mainly just an instrument. And it works great for ambient soundscapes and is great for just getting lost in sounds. And it feels almost kind of therapeutic, just messing around with the FX and the tape speeds and seeing what kind of random events will unfold. But we have been promised firmware updates that will drastically improve this device. So the developers are constantly interacting with the early adopters, and they keep receiving feature requests from them. So I believe this device will see some big changes in the near future. And the developers have also suggested that they will develop different types of firmware so that you can select what sort of features you want for your specific device. So I'm optimistic that this sampler will evolve a lot in the coming months and years. And I'm excited to see what the future brings for it. So what do you think? Is this a device that you could see any use for in your setup? Well, let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next time. And in the meantime, you can check out these videos right here if you're interested in more quirky musical devices.